Good morning, everyone. So excited to be here. Okay, hopefully you are now seeing one slide that says from childhood conflict to young adult understanding, a sibling story. And for those of you that were looking forward to like a podcast episode of the world's worst siblings, the title is probably a little more dramatic than the actual story is. So just prepare yourself for that, okay? Just so you know. Um,
Make sure to open up chat so we can answer questions if
oh,
we put it
thank
in
you.
chat instead of
Okay.
unmuting.
There we
As I
go.
will be the chat moderator for today's session for the Q&A.
All right, so we have the chat open, so Hunter's ready for that. I'm just going to move that over to here. Okay, let's do some introductions to start with. Um, let's see. Hunter, why don't you go ahead and go first?
Hello, everyone. My name is Hunter Markle, and I am a young adult of 27 years of age with autism, anxiety, and depression. I am this man's son, and I am the older brother to the wonderful Samara Markle, who will be introducing herself in a few moments.
Well, let's just move to Sammy then.
Hi, I'm Sammy Markle. That's my dad and my brother. I'm 26 years old and I am currently working towards becoming a board certified behavior analyst. Yes, yes.
Awesome. Well, I'm Tim. I'm the dad, and so I'm going to. Okay, sorry, Hunter has to see the chat. My bad. Yes, and Zoom does have its own mind. Okay, so let's go ahead and let's dig into it. The first part is basically me because I talked to both Hunter and Sammy about what they remember about their births. And weirdly enough, they don't remember much of anything, which I was there, and it's probably a good thing they don't. It's a messy, it's a messy sort of activity. Hunter was born December 23rd, 1997. Hunter is my and my wife's first child, and so he came loaded with lots of expectations. A lot of I didn't really know, feel I knew what I was doing as a dad. That really didn't change when Sammy was born. I didn't feel I was doing much better as a dad. But for those of you that are, you know some of the stories is he was only a couple weeks early. No big deal. We were excited because he came in right under the edge when tax deductions really mattered. So it was a bonus for 1997. He was a little baby, but no real issues with pregnancy, with delivery. Everything was very fine, very
Glow.
normal. He did have a bilirubin problem, and so we did have him in a little glowworm. So when he wasn't in his stocking, he was in a glowworm, receiving a little bit of extra sunshine. And so then approximately 18 months later, we had Samara, who we promptly wanted to nickname Sammy, so we did. She was born July 4th. We called her our little firecracker, and we knew what was going to be ahead of us at that point. But she also, the pregnancy was great, the birth was great. There's no trauma involved in either of that. So we were off and running with what we thought was going to be this beautiful, and it turns out it really was this beautiful set of siblings. 18 months apart, boy, girl, they're going to develop, really close. They're going to be able to play with each other. It's going to be fantastic.
Oh my gosh, I just remembered a memory. You remember when NBC was doing their whole NBC 15 here in Wisconsin, doing their whole holiday baby thing?
Oh
They
yeah,
sent a news crew into our house to have Sammy on television, and they
that's
mentioned
right.
Charlie, and I pointed over at the TV because I loved watching Charlie Shortino.
So Charlie Shortino was a weatherman, and sure enough,
He was the hero of the household at this time.
Hunter loved Charlie Shortino. And so when NBC News came it was actually in the hospital to interview Tracy and me for our July 4th baby, Sammy. So that was when she made her first appearance um, on the stage at the fresh age of 1 day or so, maybe a few hours, might have been a few hours old. So we do have that, and yes, and then you got to talk about Charlie Shortino. Um,
Yeah, I kind of accidentally stole the spotlight. for a little while.
She didn't care at that point.
No.
Sammy was pretty much sleeping. It was awesome. So being a the first time parent that I was and bringing my own background into this, uh, we had no idea as Hunter was growing up. So it would have been about a year and a half when Sammy was born. So then, 2, 3, so this 18 months behind is it was working out really good because they would play together and they would get along really well and they always had each other as friends. We never noticed that Sammy was beginning to hit developmental milestones as they would go through their toddler years at or before Hunter would. And so it probably wasn't until it wasn't until Hunter was 3 years old that we had a friend of ours who was involved in special education and we knew her family, she knew our family. Our families were very close, and she's like, I'm really getting a little bit concerned with Hunter. Number one, his speech, he wasn't really being able to be understood by anybody outside of his immediate family. So, a big issue with speech. Was having some problems with physical and just movement wise, small motor skills, large motor skills, all sorts of motor skills. Were suddenly having issues, along with some other behaviors that were a little bit worrisome that we didn't understand, but first time parents, we didn't think anything was wrong. And again, remember, this was back like in the late 1990s, early 2000s. Autism wasn't everything that it is today. The knowledge, the research base, along with our views of mental health and infant mental health, weren't exactly what they were back in the early 2000s either.
You kind of also dropped the ball on one thing with Sammy, if she would like to explain her finger problem.
So, yes, Hunter, yes. So yeah, just so Sammy doesn't feel left out. Not only were we not quite aware of what was happening with Hunter at that time, we were also not really aware about what was happening with Sammy at that time. And I don't know, was it in this
It was
picture or the
next,
previous
it was
picture?
previous picture.
Oh, sorry.
Back one more.
Okay.
Bottom left picture, I believe, is you. Yes,
Oh,
it's.
okay.
Yep. If you can't tell, her
He's got to tell your story.
thumbs
Great.
by the end, right? I forgot what it's called.
They're called trigger
You can
thumbs.
wait. What?
Trigger thumbs.
Yep.
They're stuck like this.
So yeah, so for the first few years of Sammy's life, she put up with having trigger thumbs and being the really not quite observant parents, or maybe we were even at that time starting to be a little more distracted with trying to make sure things were going okay with Hunter. And Sammy was joyful and bubbly and playful and everything. And neither one of them were causing real problems. Sometimes we would have issues with Hunter, but rarely at that age with Sammy. And so it wasn't until I don't even know how old before we noticed that she couldn't bend her thumbs in and out. One day, mom was trying to put on the mittens and said, "Oh my gosh, what's going on?" And so we had that taken care of. Um, so then growing up, um, they grew up together. We still do, a lot of family trips together. And so as we were preparing for this, one of the things that I was thinking about is that, growing up, you guys really did get along really well. Do you have any, certain memories from, when we started these wacky family vacations, driving out to California, driving down to Florida, going to the Kool-Aid Museum in Nebraska?
Oh, I wish we had pictures of the Kool-Aid Museum. That would have been awesome.
I couldn't find any, but
Oh,
I know they're somewhere. But do you guys have any sort of memories about this whole growing up? I mean, the one thing I do remember one thing, and that's when Hunter started to go to early childhood, is that Sammy didn't understand why she couldn't go too. That she really wanted to do everything that her brother was doing, wanted to be involved in everything he was doing. So if he was going to school, she should go to school. It was especially hard then when he went into kindergarten because their mom, my wife, was their kindergarten teacher. So Hunter would go away to kindergarten and Sammy would stay with grandma, but still really wanted to be at school. And, I think for a couple of reasons. But that's really early childhood when Hunter was studying assessed with speech and language, physical therapy, occupational therapy. In kindergarten, he went to a private school where Sammy ended up going to kindergarten too. So she ended up having mom as the kindergarten teacher as well. So during those years, you guys were traveling together. You were starting to go to school together. Hunter was still getting speech therapy thanks to the public school. Um, do you guys remember anything about like those years at Martin Luther?
God, the rainforest stayed with Mom in the butterfly experiment. I accidentally crushed a butterfly's wing with an orange slice.
Yeah, that wasn't your best day.
No, no, it wasn't. Funnily enough, that butterfly was the one that lived longer than everyone else's butterfly in there.
It's because we have weird luck with pets. Do you remember
Yeah.
anything about your relationship with Sammy?
Oh, I remember vacations was so much fun with her because it's just like she's in her own little world in the car, I'm in my own little world in the car, and we would swap our leapfrog games and everything
True.
during
You're
the.
also big readers, so I remember we'd be reading a lot in the car.
Yes, we packed books and traded books like they were trading cards. So instead of collecting Pokemon cards, we collected books.
And then at museums, I remember we would always like play together at the museums and find all the interactive stuff we could. And I mean, we read the exhibits too and learned things. But we were mostly there for like playing in those interactive places. Like, for example, like the sand stuff was really fun. I like those.
Yes. God, Kosai in Ohio.
It was
Oh
fun.
my gosh, I
Yeah.
missed that one.
And a lot of times, what you guys didn't know is that we were very consciously making sure that we would do things that we knew both of you would like. Because even at that young age, you had some different interests, and we knew we needed to have a little bit more active stuff for Sammy, and maybe throw in some beauty and some art and some, those sort of things.
Hmm.
And even back then, Hunter was interested in a little bit more of the history end. And so we'd make sure that we would also attend some of the
And the violent military history side.
and yeah, the military history side. So we would always try to combine those. So things were, going relatively okay. They were spending a lot of time with each other and with the common friend groups. And then because of the way that we parent, we decided to, as Hunter calls it, upset the apple cart. And we moved from our little town of Stoughton into a challenging living situation in Madison, Wisconsin, when they got to go to public school. And this opened up a lot of eyes. This opened up a lot of different things. Number one, with Hunter, is the special education team came on board and said, we're really worried about him. And so they did an assessment. They came out with an assessment of educational autism. And then we had him medically tested, but the medical community said, no, it's not autism. And so we were one of those families that was stuck between, is it autism? Isn't it autism? We know who he is. We know he's struggling. He ended up with a teacher that um, was not the most disability friendly teacher in the world. And so he started to struggle a lot at school. Whereas Sammy, you started to blossom at school. What was it about school that like really started to move things for you?
It's always been easy, ever since I was a kid, for me to make friends. So I feel as though going into that environment with all these new people, I found my place and I found it kind of quick. I had this little clique of little girlfriends that we would always play it together. And then what also helped with that was that I was into singing and dancing. So I was in the swing choir at school, and then I was at still taking dance classes back in Stoughton. So I had friends in Stoughton, I had friends in Madison. Um, I had just a lot of people my age that I was able to interact with in a way that I wasn't able to interact with Hunter anymore at that point. Um, so I think that's why I blossomed, is that I felt like I had people I could relate to more because I was starting to s- like veer away from relating to Hunter as we grew.
Yeah, and at that time, we also were getting much more concerned about Hunter's development. It was becoming pretty obvious that he was not at the same emotional age as his peers, and so we started to have to spend a lot more extra time. And so it was, it's not like we didn't do things with Sammy and her school and her classroom, field trips and stuff as best we could, but we knew if Hunter's class was going on a field trip, one of us was going to be there. We were going to be one of the parent chaperones. And while we would try to do that with Sammy's, we also knew that she would be fine on field trips because she was surrounded by her friends and she was this social butterfly. And, she loved it when we were around, but she didn't need us around, whereas Hunter did. And so I could see about this time where, it was really beginning to be a little more obvious the amount of time and the depth of interaction that we had with Hunter's life was starting to overwhelm what we had with Sammy's. I mean, yes, I know there was a distance issue, um, but we would think nothing of dropping Sammy off for her dance classes and then picking her up later. Whereas Hunter, we would always be there. We would have to be there to make sure for
Hmm.
his karate classes.
Heck, I would go to
Um,
karate classes.
what's that?
I went
Yeah.
to quite a few karate
Yes,
Yes.
classes.
yes.
She was
So
dragged along to a few of them.
because
That's
you were
right.
old enough to stay alone, and so
I
you
enjoyed
had to
it.
go to karate classes as well. Whereas
It
we
was
did not
cool.
make Hunter go to dance classes, needless to say. Um, but they kept growing, and we did everything that we could.
I'm still trying to remember the context at the bottom middle picture.
Um,
It's in a
I,
museum. It was about
I,
I think it was
yeah,
about centrifugal force.
yeah,
yeah.
you're exactly. It
Okay.
was a science museum about centrifugal force, and Sammy was having a lot of fun being dramatic. Um,
On brand.
on
On
brand,
brand.
exactly.
You can tell she was growing into the theater child.
She was. She was also one of the trips we took was to South Dakota, and we learned how to use the atlatl, which we found out Sammy's pretty darn good at the atlatl. And so that was fun. But we did our best to continue to do things as a family. Matter of fact, so much so that after our time in Madison was done, they were forced together um, because they were then homeschooled by their mom and
And online schooled as well.
and online school, so homeschool and then online school. But from this, okay, we grew up really together and then went to public school, and Sammy started to have her group of friends, and Hunter started to have some different challenges and really seeing some social challenges. So all of a sudden they're back together in one house. So how was homeschooling, online schooling for you?
Fun, amazing, and just overall something that I appreciated more than Sammy did, definitely.
Well, she probably had a different experience. Maybe not. I don't know. I'm not gonna put feelings or saying so. Together with homeschooling, Sammy, what was that like for you to all of a sudden not have a school to go to, but spending the day homeschooling?
Well, from what I remember, I was bored a lot.
Yeah.
Um, and it was, I mean, you've always called me a social butterfly, and I feel as though this age from fifth to eighth grade is pretty pivotal in a young girl's social life. And so, but also I feel like I was saved from a lot of drama. So I'm actually quite I'm kind of grateful for it because I just heard that public middle school was awful. So I'd much rather spend it with my family. However, I definitely felt like bored, like I said. And then I started to build up like a little bit of like resentment just because of how different I was becoming from Hunter. And then um, just that classic young girl fights with mom started happening more and more because we were together all day. And she was getting me to do things that I may not like doing. Like some of the schoolwork was hard and I didn't like applying myself at that age. Um, So I feel like it created a lot of friction just because of, I mean, the hormones coursing through my body, and then just how different socially me and Hunter were. Um, and I felt like they spent a lot of their time and attention on him. And I didn't really have, I only had dance at this point. Towards the end, I started to have youth group with the church. But there was nobody I could really talk to about how like isolated I felt. Um, because you don't really talk about that in dance class.
No.
So yeah, I just felt pretty isolated. I think that's the overarching word I would use.
Yeah, and there was a um just thinking about youth group is I know there was always this, I don't know if we ever spoke the expectation out loud, but we would like have to kind of encourage Hunter to go and like hope that you would like watch out for him, which is not a really great expectation to put on a younger sister, is you that especially knowing that we never really talked about it. Um, but when he would go I don't know if you felt it, but we absolutely expected you to watch out for him
Oh,
at youth group.
you explicitly told me you have to be nice to him because other people probably aren't going to be.
Yeah.
I was told that. Um, Pretty young actually, but multiple times. Um, I do remember he was always in the corner of my eye at youth group. Because I would be with my friends obviously, but I would I would keep an eye on him.
Yeah. So you keep an eye on him. But yet there was, even though you're homeschooling together and doing online school together, this kind of is where, I started to see some of the, I don't know if I want to call it as deep a resentment, but there was definitely a lot more tension between you guys with homeschooling, being in the same house all day together. When I would get home from work, there was usually something I had to help Hunter with or to get him through, that there was something had happened. Um, whereas, you know, you kept going. And so I know very well that, especially at that age, it changed a little bit in high school, with involvement. Um, but back then, I know very well that my focus was very much on what am I going to do? Where's he going to go? Got to, get him through, keep him happy, keep everything going. And you you know, just kept sliding along. Did you feel that way at all? Did you pick up on that? Or how were you feeling toward your parents at that time? And I'll just shut my ears so you go ahead.
No, yeah, I definitely feel like I was, like I said, isolated. Like I didn't feel as supported as Hunter was being supported, but that's because he needed more support than I did. By that age, it feels like he was the favorite. Um, Even though it was attention for not great things, like it's not like he's having a good time trying to work out this math problem, but Tad is spending an hour with him, so I'm jealous. Um, and then I also started to see things on media, so like TV shows, things of sibling relationships that are negative. Like the bratty younger sister and the older brother like telling her off with a good roast. And I never got that from him. I would push, I would prod, I would poke, but he never retaliated because he's not that person, which I'm very lucky for, is that he's a
Yeah.
fantastic brother and a fantastic young man now. But it was frustrating for me because I
Mhm.
wasn't getting the reactions that I wanted. And it felt as though, as his bond was getting stronger with mom and dad, the bond between me and him, me and Hunter was getting weaker. And then beyond the bond between me and my parents was also getting weaker, which changed in high school, thank goodness. But
Yes.
I just felt like I was isolated. That's the word I would use.
Which for a middle school into junior high girl, that's a very dangerous place to be and very poor feelings. That's hard. That's really, really hard. Um, so how are you doing at this time? Seventh, eighth grade. Um,
Beyond the struggles with math, I was okay. definitely was more of the parent favorite. I do have to agree with you on that, sis, as they were spending more time with me than you. Um, and it was definitely something that I did pick up on, but I didn't want to voice it to hurt anyone's feelings at the time and everything. And it was definitely more of the idea of if I start talking to mom about this, what's going to happen with dad? If I talk to this with dad, what's going to happen with Sammy? If I talk to this with Sammy, what's going to happen to mom and dad? It was that whole cycle of I don't know who to talk to because if I talked to anyone at the time, it feels like I'm betraying the trust of
Hmm.
the other person in the house. And it was that whole thing of I know what's going on, but I don't know how to bring it up.
Do you remember how you felt or how you would react when Sammy would like poke you and prod you and tease you and try to get a react? I mean, there were times where she just really wanted to get a reaction out of you.
Confusion because we did not watch the same social media and everything. We did not have the same experience with siblings on TV shows because I was primarily the one that watched all of the more Criminal Minds, CSI, crime shows
Mm. She
over.
she liked she
She
liked
liked
those
those
too.
too, yeah.
But back at that age,
But
you were still very much in seventh,
military
eighth grade, military
history,
history, cartoons,
yep.
whereas Sammy was getting more
More
into the
into the
Disney Channel
Yep.
type
Yep.
dramas.
More
Yeah.
reality, somewhat
Mm,
reality TV show, nitty-gritty
exactly.
drama stuff. And definitely, yes, it does sound like we have both experienced isolation in our own ways.
Hmm.
Yeah. Just pointing out what someone that the person put out in
Yeah.
chat. Thank you about
All
that.
right. So then
High school.
high school happened. Sorry about that. So then high school happened, and we gave Sammy the choice. We said, Sammy, would you like to stay home and do homeschooling? Or, I mean, online school, or do you want to go to brick and mortar? And we gave Hunter the same choice when he had entered high school. What did you choose to do for high school?
Online.
And Sammy, what did you choose to do for high school?
Nobody was surprised. Brick and mortar.
Not a surprise at
Not
all.
a single surprise.
I love how you're using the term that online school coined for public schools.
So how did going to high school, you going away to high school, Hunter staying home and doing online schooling, how did that your affect your guys' relationship? Because now you're starting to both be at the age where you're starting to become a lot more aware of your social surroundings. How did that affect you guys?
We didn't really drift too far apart, but it was still that whole feeling of distant siblings. We were there for each other when needed, but it was still that sort of distant relationship, but we still loved each other. Did you kind of feel the same sort of distance, sis?
Yeah, I definitely felt like I slowed down on the bullying. I feel like I was quite nicer to you. But I still wasn't including you very much in my life. I wasn't very interactive. I was very much focused on school, focused on my own friends. Like they would come over a lot, but I wouldn't include Hunter in any of that. And it wasn't because I was embarrassed or anything. My friends liked him. It just he never tried to, so I never tried. Um, it was more of just like a complacency of distance. Like I was okay with not knowing him
Mhm.
very well, which changed down the road. But it was a very much like egocentric part of my life where I was just very concerned with my own friends and my own grades and theater and choir and all my own stuff, and not really concerned with Hunter very much.
Yeah, this was also the time you went through your goat phase, where
It's
you
not a
just loved anything goat related.
it's not a
I
phase.
think she still does. I don't think it's a phase. I think she just likes
No, this was
goats.
just more serious moment and everything of
See,
goats.
she's still no
Yes, I know you still love
goats.
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 I'm just saying you were more focused on goats during high school than you were a little bit of other animals like dogs, cats, and
Okay,
everything.
Sure.
give you that. And it was also at this time that Tracy's Tr Sammy's mom, Tracy, my wife, we were able to get involved in some summer musicals with Sammy. And so it was literally felt like we were spending all summer together, which was fantastic. And which then grew to um, me being a chauffeur to different music events that Sammy and her friends would want to go to, which then parallels the fact that now Hunter and I go to a lot of music events together, and just a really sense of weirdness. So we're still very much focused on getting Hunter through high school. We wanted to get him his diploma. We got him involved in 4-H because we knew that he had to have some social stuff going on, and he wasn't initiating any. So we try to pull him into like the world of theater where the three of us would thrive, and we had a blast. And he would have nothing to do with it at that time. But again, in weird foreshadowing,
I ended up going into doing some minor theater stuff
so he's been on stage a couple times now,
about
which
3 times now.
yeah, which is just really not expected back from what happened back then. So let's get into adulthood and
There we go.
so we all of a sudden you guys became adults. And Sammy was away at college. Hunter was still at
Living in the
home,
basement.
living in the basement. Oddly enough, I don't think we have time to go into the fact that they had some parallel mental health challenges at that time, with not really sure whether life was what they wanted to do at that moment at different times. Hunter more so than Sammy, but that anxiety and the depression. And even though we started hang out together, how did you guys feel, especially like when you were going through the struggles of being an adult, of trying to grow up, COVID hit, all these things. How did you guys interact around that?
We did pretty well, I feel like, in the sense that we still were siblings and that we were kind of growing closer together and everything. We definitely still don't have the most perfect sibling relationship, but we definitely have one that is on the level that comes with from like that 70s show is what I would consider our relationship where we definitely tease each other, but
Oh,
it's
okay.
Oh,
not the
Okay.
connection sort of sibling thing like you would have in a Disney Channel.
okay. Yeah.
God, yeah.
Okay.
Sometimes I just need to listen and let you speak, and eventually then I can understand.
It makes
Okay,
sense. It makes sense eventually.
gotcha.
I feel like a big turning point for me is when I started working, doing applied behavior analysis, with children who have autism, spectrum disorder. And I feel like I started to see a lot of my brother in these kids. Specifically, there was this 8-year-old boy, that was doing schooling with us because it was 2020, it was during COVID. And I would help him with his schoolwork. And I was like, dang, this is exactly how Hunter was acting. Like, I was like, this reminds me, like, he said things that I'm like, Hunter would have said that. I was like, good things, like funny things. Um, and so I think when I started to actually have a name for it and start helping these other children, through difficult times, teaching them new skills, all the wonders that can be, ABA therapy, I started to realize that, that's how I should be treating Hunter. That I should support him and give him tools and resources, tips and tricks, and involve him in conversations, seek him out, force him to be part of conversations, and try to get the rapport built back up. And I feel like I started to come home and seek him out, like go down to the basement, be like, "Hey, how's it going? How's your life? What you been up to?" Even if it was just about how his work has been going, I was still like engaged, and I started to just involve him more and see him more as my brother and somebody who I can actually like talk to instead of roll my eyes at or poke fun at. I started to see him as an equal. And I think that was really important for me to learn that he's actually a great brother and he's really fun to talk to. And all I need to do is just talk to him, and it goes great. So I think that that was a big turning point for me in our relationship, and just made me feel closer to you, um, just because of how much I've learned, honestly, through life.
Yeah, I definitely would agree with the whole thing with ABA. You working with those kids and that and everything definitely really rebuilt and reinforced that bridge of sibling love. And that it definitely opened my eyes to now seeing, oh, she does understand what I went through. She does understand who I am. And that it's more again growing into that Disney Channel-esque sibling relationship
Yeah,
and
just
everything.
so you know, we're not sponsored by the Disney Channel, nor do we have any sort of stake in Disney Channel, nor do we agree with everything that the Disney Channel does. There's a disclaimer. Okay, go ahead.
But you kind of see what I mean, sis, and everything with that. And just to clarify on whose dog is whose in the top right, the one closer to me that is Cammy, that is the dog that lives in Wisconsin. The one closer to Sammy is Achilles, that's the dog that she owns in Michigan, that lives with her in Michigan.
Yeah, so I
Yes.
guess I guess we never really did explain the fact that you're living with us in Wisconsin and
No,
Sammy's out working on a master's degree in Michigan. So I don't know if we made that clear, but can you think of any like really specific examples, Sammy or Hunter? Like, what was the change between the undergraduate years, Sammy, when you would come back and visit and interact, and then later? Can you think of like examples about how the different ways you would interact when you would see each other over breaks?
I I would definitely say Christmas time is one of the biggest ones where our relationship really grows into that Disney Channel-esque love. Definitely holidays, whenever you would just here for like a week trip to get away from college, definitely is another one that I would say we really got together with and everything, and just those sort of ideas and everything are the big ones that come to my head.
Well, a specific example, I think it was, I want to say it was Iowa. We were
Mm.
at a loud bar, um, with my whole family, and then one of my friends, Autumn. Um, and I remember Hunter was getting really overwhelmed because it was loud and kind of musky. It was like, it was a very cramped space, right? And loud music.
Hmm.
So I took him outside and I was like, listen, we're gonna do some deep breaths. So I taught him how to do deep breaths. And then I was like, how do you feel about deep pressure? Do you like it? And he was like, I don't know. And I was like, all right, can I give you some squeezes on your arms? Because these are things that I've learned. I have been working in ABA not very long, like 6 months at this point. And I was like, well, this can help regulate your nervous system. Can I try? And he was like, go ahead. And so I started giving him some deep squeezes on his arms. And he's like, oh, that's actually really helping. I was like, oh. Then I will continue helping. And so I think that was a pretty pivotal point in our relationship. Just you letting me help you in that way was pretty significant to me, and it made me feel trusted and loved, and it made me feel like I could provide for you. And it almost like made up in my mind, it made up for all those years that I was mean to you. I was like, well, now most of our lives will be me being nice to you. So it just cancels out the negative.
Mhm.
Um, and so I'm very grateful for that. And thank you for letting me help you in that way.
Yeah, no, I completely and utterly forgot about the Iowa trip, so thank you for bringing that up and everything, because that was definitely another great moment of rebuilding the bridges back to our younger childhood love of each other
Mhm.
before public school and everything.
Yeah, I mean, it really has been a pendulum back and forth and back and forth. And I mean, just to be clear, is that, somewhere in the middle of all that back and forth, there was some book throwing, there was some locking in the
Yeah,
basement.
you kind of did
There was
throw a
a,
book at my nose and caused me to bleed. Luckily, she didn't break my nose, but there was a lot of blood.
well, head wounds.
It was an advanced
Um,
reader. It was a chapter book, so that doesn't count.
Yeah, yeah, it was
yeah.
one of the heavier books. Still have no idea on why I made you angry enough to throw a book at me.
You were
Who
being annoying, I think. I
you
don't.
right. So there was, but it was all that pendulum swing, and then to, even when you would first come home from college, and it was a struggle to do things together as a family. We'd try to play games and everything together, and we were very conscious. It seemed we didn't want to, none of us wanted to be too annoyed, and none of us were as understanding as we could have been of Hunter at that time.
Mhm.
But that all grew and changed. And now I know that you very purposely include him and ask him questions when we're doing activities. I think of the Christmas cookie decorating,
Oh my gosh,
um,
yes.
that it's, that you're interested in what he was thinking, why he was doing, and he was interested in what you were doing. And it was just a really, one of those examples of moving from we exist in the same place, in the same space, to I'm interested in what's going on with you.
Hmm.
And I want you to know more about me, and I want to know more about you, into that sibling type relationship.
Yep.
All right. So, Sammy, I of course neglected to write down any of your lessons learned. You'll also note that neither of you get any sort of contact information. If anybody wants to know anything more about you, they're going to have to go through me. I'm just a papa bear about that, apparently. Or I'm a procrastinator and totally forgot to get it onto the slide. So, Sammy,
That's more likely.
shh, any lessons that you might have learned over to close us out here?
I definitely learned patience and acceptance of things that I can't change. Like, that's my brother. I gotta love him for who he is. I also learned that I need to show him nothing but love. And like I said, acceptance. Because the rest of the world may show him nothing but hate and negativity. So I need to be the kind sister that I know I can be and love him for who he is. And that's what I'm doing these days. That's what I've learned.
Hunter, what have you learned?
I learned that my sister is definitely someone I need to approach more often with my problems, that I need to learn that I learned how to properly ask her what's going on in her life, what can I do to help, that loving her is just something that need to do because she's my sister. I don't need to be that protective older brother like a lot of older brothers are because she's got this. She's stronger than me physically, mentally, and very much more emotionally. I will say that much. And that she's the one that I should go to if I need a shoulder to cry on and not the other way around.
Yeah, I look forward to the day when you guys will talk about your parents and help you both realize about us.
Don't worry, that will be at your
Okay.
eulogy.
Thanks. I hope it happens before that.
Dad,
Um,
I'm 70% you. I'm a
yes.
worse
I
procrastinator
just
than you.
I'm just saying that you both have the experience of having the same parents, and so you may be able to get insight from each other when we tick you off. That's all I'm saying. is that maybe when
Oh,
mom and I take you off, your
okay,
sister
okay.
would be a good person to reach out to.
Completely and utterly misheard
Yeah,
everything there. That's my
fair enough.
fault.
All right. So then, besides my son looking forward to my death, I just want to include my own lessons learned. Um, Throughout all this, you'll notice that I probably could have done a little bit better. Okay, I deal with my own mental health issues. When I don't take care of my own recovery, I am not as present as I want to be for my kids. And so the one of the most important things that I have to do is make sure that I am not getting distracted by my own stuff around here, but that I'm taking care of myself. The stronger I am, the more whole I am, the more I have space to notice what's going on with my children. And so one of the most important parenting things that I can tell anybody is take care of yourself and fill your own cup. The other thing is don't worry about the world's time frame. Hunter may live with me forever, and that is mighty fine. Sammy can move back in anytime she wants. I don't know where the hell she'd sleep, but she can move back in anytime she wants. I'm done worrying about what everybody else thinks my kids should do. My kids will be themselves and they will be allowed to thrive and make their mistakes and rebound from those mistakes. And we're going to be here for them no matter what. The relationships matter more than any sort of outcomes that they may have in their life. It's the relationships that's going to last. If you do want to get a hold of any of us, don't bother. There's not really any other slides after this. It's slides that I forgot to so you can leave it here. Um, if you do want to get a hold of Sammy or Hunter, because they are pretty cool damn people, feel free to email me at forgivenessfactor.org and I will share their email addresses with you
You
that
forgot to put in Tim at the
no,
forgiveness
Markle
factor.
works as well.
Oh,
And so I will get them forward. I mean, because Hunter is alive on Discord. He's got a Spotify playlist. He's getting more out there, and in about 9 months, Sammy will be looking for a job. So feel free, reach out, and so we're gonna end the slideshow here. I believe we finally wow, we ended with time for question and answers, which if you've ever been
to a session with just me and him, you would know our questions are usually after the session is fully done.
Yeah, we literally are the people that are sitting there going, okay, if you have questions, we'll meet you in the hallway because the next presenter has to get set up with the thing. So, Sammy, something special about you is somehow you keep us on time. So please, any questions, comments? I think Kelsey, they could unmute if they wanted to, put them into the message board. I have loved sharing my kids with you. Thank you for being here.
Well, I'll just say a few words while we wait to see if anybody wants to ask a question. First off, thank you so much, Tim and Hunter and Sammy. I was quite touched by your story, and not just that, the journey is unique, but there's so much that aligns with so many sibling stories, right? Where they diverge and converge and find each other. And it's beautiful to see how you have done that and learned about each other and support each other. And it's just a beautiful relationship. So I appreciate you sharing that. Um, I did drop your website into the chat as well, Tim. I don't see any questions at the moment. I think folks
There is one in the chat. It is
are
for
okay.
Sammy.
Go right ahead then.
Sammy, how do you think your lived experience as a sister of this remarkable young man impacts the work you do now?
I love that you were the question. Um, I think that it provides me with just like extra compassion for these kids, and it gives me a lot of yeah, like you said, like I have a lot of lived experience with somebody with autism. So even though that's not what I knew what it was for most of the time, it gives me, like I said, like more compassion. I feel like it lets me reach into the depths of my patience for these kids. And I treat them better than how I would have ever treated Hunter. Like far better than the kid cleanser. Because now I know you don't. I was not a very good sister at some points. Most of the time I was good. There's just a couple of years in there that I was just really getting under his skin. And so I think knowing what gets under his skin and what not to do um, has made me a better technician because I don't do those things. and I provide them with a safe space. That's what I like to call myself. It's just a safe space for these kids to learn.
A team of people that have that empathy for their students, and I'm really looking forward to watching that. And Sammy, if you do want people to reach out to you, feel free to put your email in the chat. I'm never sure which one to use
Oh,
because I'm me, and yeah, I get confused. Any other questions, comments? Thank you.
Hopefully one day we can get mom to talk at one of these.
Oh, somebody has to earn the money. So
I mean, yeah,
someone has
yeah,
to go to work while we have fun talking to people.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
well,
One day.
We will. We will.
Someone had
She is
raised their
she is
hand.
the steadiest. She is probably the emotional steadiest of the four of us, I think. And yes, Renee.
yeah, so thank you so much. You probably saw my reactions because I came into this work as a family peer support specialist, as a sibling of someone with special needs. And I'm just so happy whenever I see, workshops that focus on this topic because it's so important. One thing I tell people all the time, every child has special needs. Everybody has special needs. It's just some people, there's not a formal diagnosis. And you're blessed if you know it before 18. It's tough when your child is over 18 and you can't do anything. But one thing I would ask is, are there any supports or approaches that you wished providers took to kind of address both siblings looking back to help build that relationship? I know there's things called sib shops now, which are like support groups, but any thoughts?
I'm going to go first, maybe get you guys time to. So one of the thoughts that I have is as schools identify those students who have special healthcare needs and maybe have IEPs or 504s, is wouldn't it be nice if they also identified who the siblings were in that school and reached out to those siblings to see what sort of supports they may be having, understanding that that family environment may be a little chaotic at times and that the siblings of those kids may also need some support and maybe just some place to talk to, a safe place to vent to, that there's a lot of pressure on them and it's a unique sort of pressure. So I think if there was some way for schools to establish um, ways on their own to support those siblings of the kids who have IEPs, that it's not just the kid and the parents that are changed by having a kid in special education.
That sounds great. Go ahead.
Ironically enough, fully agree with everything he just said because that is such a powerful idea and a powerful tool. And it helps the siblings connect more because that means the sibling that doesn't have the IEP or need to go to the special education department gets to enter in that same special education and everything. They get to see the interaction between the director or the teacher that runs the special education and these other kids. And they learn how to interact with them and expand their friend group while also connecting with their sibling and everything. So it's such an amazing idea that I wish could be picked up more on. Would you agree?
I love that. So well said. Well said. Thank you so much. Wow.
Um,
Other questions, comments? We're pretty much running up against time and I'm hungry, to be honest.
Hi, Hungry. I'm your son.
No, really do. Thank you from the
Mhm.
bottom of our hearts for showing up today, for letting us tell our story. Thank you for joining me in my Hunger Kai. Thank you. Um, just thank you all so much. And I know from seeing some of you in person, I know that we miss seeing you all in person. I wish
Mhm.
we could have joined you, but continue to be the real awesome people that you are. Is you are making a difference in this world for families, in the support that you give, for learning more about how to be better ourselves. We help to make other people better too. So keep up the great work. Thank you so much for being here. Kelsey, any